Hello and welcome to this special Christmas edition of the Social Media Show. And great to have you looking so festive on the show this
Yes,
afternoon,
definitely.
Yola. Yes, I really
Yes,
do like that, and I hope our live and replay viewers on both Facebook and Periscope think the same thing. Unfortunately, if you're listening on the podcast, you're missing out on the visuals, but nevertheless, I hope you enjoy the show. When we're going to be looking ahead to 2020, going to be giving you some predictions of all things social media, but we'd really like to know what you think as well. So do let us know that you're watching by typing hello in the comments. And if you'd like to actually come on with us live, then we can. I think we can arrange that as well. So do let us know what your predictions are, and if you've got any comments or questions on our predictions too. So Yola, let's kick off with, before we sort of drill down to individual networks and what they might be up to, let's look at sort of big picture themes and trends. What do you see as the sort of key trends for 2020 compared with 2019?
well, I think the biggest trend and the biggest corner that we are turning is now called organic engagement. Going
Okay.
away from mass following into a smaller micro following and caring for our network. We always said that this was the point of social media. But this
Yeah.
year, I have never seen so much highlights on and focus on organic engagement. And that's, as you say, it's not just specific to any platform, it's across the whole social media. It's all about engagement, all about conversation. And I think the engagement means literally three words: is like, share, comment.
So do you think that brands and businesses are actually getting better at this social media thing, and that's why the engagement is coming about, or is it just a different way that the audience is responding?
I think with social media, we went through this sort of the more followers, the better, and it
Yeah.
was so easy to buy and increase that number and buy followers, and it wasn't. It was. It's quite cheap to do it. It's quite simple to do it, but it doesn't give you engagement. It does give you the number higher, bigger number, but it doesn't give you the engagement. And I think from the first sort of um, trend of getting these numbers high, we're now going into, actually there is no point to the high numbers because I've got million followers and no engagement. That doesn't actually make me so trendy on social media. It doesn't
Yeah.
give me any advantage. The recent article that I sent on LinkedIn about mask, with millions of followers, making them on the top of list of supply chain providers. Now, they don't have a real engagement there. And I think we're now coming to the point of valuing the engagement and having maybe 50 followers, maybe 100, maybe 200 followers, but actually being able to talk to them and actually
Yeah.
engaging is what I
Yeah.
see on LinkedIn. I've got something like 2,200 connections, but actually I only have about 50, maybe 100 people that I really interact with and talk. It's like having your networking group, but just online. And that you might have slightly different on different platforms, but generally the idea is the same, is the organic engagement. Are we better as a brand? I remember training a legal company locally on that sort of brand awareness and employees engagement, and trying to explain how important it is, how much they can lift the brand's social media. We care about the opinions of employees more about the brand
Yep.
than we care about the brand themselves selling and promoting themselves on social. So it is important. Now the question is, should they comment? Should they just be liking it and sharing? Should employees be commenting? That's a little bit, I think, subject for discussion and more sort of internal policies, because for legal companies, it's probably not smart for employees having their opinion, because
ideally, I think they should comment. And also the way the algorithm works on LinkedIn in particular, comments are really sort of like strong there and can help spread the reach of the post. So yeah, I would encourage anybody to try and get people to comment on their posts, whether they're employees or potential customers. But I think that's the key thing with what you were saying there, is that this whole followers thing, there is just no point having that number, because they're not only you're not getting any engagement, but they're just not the right people, because you want to be talking to employers, suppliers, prospective customers, existing customers. And then if you're not doing that, then, well, the whole thing's pretty much a waste of time. So it's I see where you're coming from there.
I think it's a massive change of thinking in society, in users on social media, is from that, oh, you only have 10 followers, or you only have 200, oh, I have 10,000. But actually that is becoming a not so important now. That's what I'm trying to say. The importance is in any engagement. Organic reach, slower reach is more important, it's more valuable than just getting that mass number and getting all stressed out about that we're not growing fast enough, and we're not getting, we can inflame that number. We've been people been doing it for a long time. So now, but now is this, I think this is crucial for 2020, is slowing down. It's just getting the value of the organic growth and getting patient. We just need to be patient. And I think that's what social media wasn't for many years, is that we were impatient with it. This is where customers would come to us and say, well, it's not growing fast enough. Well,
instant results. Yeah. So where do you see advertising and boosting posts fitting into this growth in organic engagement then? Because I mean, it by definition, it isn't organic, but would you say people are going to be boosting posts that have done well organically?
I don't know. It's an interesting question. I definitely recommend and do it myself, the advertising on Instagram. I much prefer it from an interface point of view and from user friendliness. It's almost lovely compared to how complicated it is on Facebook, for example.
Yeah, you're not a big fan of Facebook.
I am not a great fan of Facebook, no. No. But we now running campaigns in parallel on Facebook and on Instagram for client, and the engagement and the results and the readability and easiness of setting it all up on Instagram compared to Facebook is massive. Instagram is so much nicer, and yet still being owned by Facebook. So don't get me wrong, no, I don't discredit Facebook completely. I just don't like Facebook app. I find it too complicated. However, I think advertising will still play a great role, and I think it can still be utilized, and there is a great potential there. It's just you need to choose what you are advertising, what's the purpose. As always, you need to decide what is the purpose of the advertising, and then
totally agree with you there. That's the fundamental thing before you get into ad types, content, or anything else. It's what reason are you doing it for?
Exactly. So if there is a good reason, and you know exactly who you're targeting, and you know your audience and your criteria, then go for it. Advertising, I don't discredit it at all. We always, even before social media, people would still advertise in printed magazines and newspapers. So yes, definitely advertise, but why?
So I think linking into that, my sort of feelings about next year, a general theme, I think is sort of like back to basics, back to social media basics. So it's quite interesting that your first point is a growth in organic reach, because that totally ties in with the way that I see things going. So other sort of back to basics, I think the conversation, which you also mentioned, it's going to be a bit more personal, a bit more one-to-one rather than broadcast style. So almost like back how it was 2010, 2011 for those people that were doing it sort of properly at that time. And I think there's going to be, prior to the conversation, a very important point of conversation is listening. So I think there's going to be more listening, and a few other social media pundits have sort of like picked up on that one. And I think that's because there's a lot of tools available now. So there's plenty of tools that you can choose to do your social listening, as it's called. But even just using the tools that are within each platform can get you results. Another one, I think, back to basics. I think there's going to be more emphasis on privacy and security. I think it's going to be something that people are a bit more. I think they've been pretty blasé about it, to be honest. Your man in the street or your business person in the street. But I think perhaps there'll be a big sort of like incident that will shake people up, and the networks will start to take that a bit more seriously. But a lot of it's down to personal responsibility as well, of course, because the networks have made things like two-factor authentication, where you get a text when you log in from an unusual device. All of that's available on all the social networks now. So I think there is some personal responsibility that people can take to keep themselves safer and to keep their details private. What's that? Sorry.
We are lazy. We don't want two factor.
That is true, because it is a bit of an inconvenience. I've got a message here. Loving the jumper, JP. Knowing Rich as I do, I think he's probably being sarcastic.
Well, I think jumper is great.
And also, I think you should be offended that he hasn't commented on your festive look either. So especially your earrings. So yes. We'll wait to hear back from you, Rich, if you're still watching. So I think you said you've got 10 predictions, and we're like we need to crack on. So
all right, okay. All
what's
right.
number 2, Yola?
Number 2. No, we covered about 3 so far, so that's okay.
Oh, okay.
We're doing okay. I'm thinking mentally. I'm thinking about Well, I'm ticking the boxes as we go along. Let's go back to your prediction from last year. Let's start from that. You predicted that Facebook is going to be setting up some coffee shops, and I think you were right. London,
well, it's funny you should say that. A lot of people took the mick out of me on that one, and quite a few people said, we agree with all of your predictions apart from the last one, which is Facebook's setting up a show. But I have to say, I'm not completely. It depends on which way you look at it, but I guess I will argue that I was correct, because in the summer, Facebook did set up some pop-up coffee shops, London, Edinburgh, Manchester, I think a few other cities, to help people with privacy, to advise them on how they could set their privacy settings. And they were selling coffee, so there you go, or providing coffee. So I was kind of like partially or maybe completely proved right on that. I've got a few more outlandish predictions if you want to hear them for this year. I think was actually rumoured, so perhaps it's not really that outlandish, but it's rumoured that Facebook's going to be getting into podcasting, so that's quite an interesting one. Perhaps they might set up a podcasting app on the side, a standalone podcasting app, or perhaps they might build that into the business page offering that they've got. But I think probably my most outlandish prediction is they're going to start charging for other things. They're going to start charging businesses for other things apart from the advertising, maybe connected with the podcasting, maybe to do with live video, some sort of other service, perhaps some souped up maybe business type functionality that hasn't yet been released. So yeah, I think that would be like a massive change if they did that. So I just got a feeling that might come, because they can't, whilst advertising revenues are continuing to grow, the overall membership of Facebook is going to reach stagnation at some point, and at that point there's just going to be less people to, or a static number of people to advertise to. So I think they're going to look for other revenue streams, and it's not actually a very healthy business model having, I think it's something like 98% of their revenue is advertising. So that's not a very good model to have all your eggs in one basket there. So I think they might come out with some sort of a subscription type model on the business side.
That. I said it. I think I said it many times before.
Yeah,
I would prefer that. I would prefer that there is like a monthly subscription for having a business presence on Facebook.
And what would you like for your money?
So even in my opinion, even if they were to charge me for a business page platform, to access to have a business, to enter business side of Facebook, if there was be like a charge, I don't know, something, say call it £5 a month, I think businesses would go for it. What I would want from it, I would like the tab to be open again. I would like to have access to all my followers. I would like to not to be forced to pay for advertising.
Okay, so like a monthly subscription, but guaranteed reach to all your followers,
right.
in the good old days. That's interesting. Yeah,
I would like to go back to where we were before 2017, where people were growing business pages and they had access and everybody saw and they had engagement and things were happening there. Hence, we've got those businesses that have about 2,000, 5,000 followers on the Facebook pages, whereas when I'm setting up business pages today, I have 15, okay, and maximum maybe 200, and that's it. And depends what business is. So I honestly would prefer for Facebook to provide a subscription-based business platform, £5 a month for setting up the business page, and then they can add on to it. They can be the easy jet of social media. The basic travel, and then seat, and then your luggage, and then whatever else you want, and speedy boarding. So I think that would work better for Facebook. And at the moment, Facebook is annoying me, and I really don't like the model. I don't like that I'm being forced to pay for advertising. I don't see any real benefits from advertising. Even if I advertise, I still don't get anything. I think some ridiculous figures I was getting to for like £2 per like for my page. For again, irrelevant followers. That was. It was. So I would prefer to go to subscription. I honestly would. It's we pay small subscriptions for all sorts of applications and other services. So I think that would be business viable. I think I like that. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think they could, like I said, possibly perhaps in the package they could include improvements with the live video. In fact, they announced a few last week. But I'm paying a subscription for this StreamYard software platform that we're using right now, and that's just a very sort of small part of Facebook. But the reason I'm doing that is because it's giving me extra functionality, like the ability to schedule, the banners, the naming, the branding, and all of that, and a more stable platform that's sitting on top of Facebook's sort of live video engine. So if they made improvements, I'm sure people would be prepared to pay, because there's others like BeLive and StreamYard that's where they have got subscribers. So we shall see.
So off my list now, talking about Facebook, if I was to recommend Facebook to anybody today, I would say to them, if you're a startup, if you don't have a website presence at the moment, and don't have any budget to spend on building a website, go and build your website on a business profile on Facebook, and use that as your go-to place for all your events, for your services, for everything. Don't expect any engagement. Don't pay for any advertising. But if this is where you are at the beginning of your business, use it as a website presence, and that's it. And don't have a website.
Yeah, that's interesting, because for the first time, I think we're seeing a bit of a shift there. I've got a few clients now, and come across a few clients that don't have websites but are using Facebook, and I think that's come about. Most of them are kind of in the like one's a nail salon, for example, and another one's sort of heating and plumbing, and they're sort of quite appointment based. And so you've got that appointment functionality on Facebook now where clients can book in a time sort of slot with you. So they're bringing in functionality like that that's actually very useful and appealing to small businesses, which wouldn't actually be that cheap to build into a website. So it's quite an attractive platform for somebody perhaps starting up in business, wanting to keep costs low.
That website sort of functionality of the app is kind of nice, and I can see the most practical, whereas all the engagement and everything else, I would say just don't count on it, but use it for different reasons, basically. So change your mind, change the story you're telling yourself about Facebook, but use it, but use it as a website presence. And I think that's valuable. That's still valuable. That's still there. What's your opinion on new platforms coming out?
Okay, so probably we're going to see continued growth of TikTok. Massive growth during the year. It's sort of like crept up, I think, on a lot of people, but definitely not there yet for business. But that could be certainly a prediction, something to look out for 2020, because I have heard that they're looking to build in some sort of e-commerce type functionality. I think a bit like Instagram, maybe with the swipe up to except it'll be swipe up to buy something, swipe up on a video to buy something. So that could be, if they do that, well, then I think quite a few businesses will start to experiment and see how they get on there. The only query I'd have with it is it is a pretty, whilst I haven't seen extensive research on it, my feeling is that it is a very specific demographic, as in sort of young. So is that going to be the right demographic for a lot of businesses? Possibly some businesses, but not all. So it could be a platform for some people, but not others looking to sort of explore new platforms. So who knows? Possibly by mid sort of next year, I might be doing training, and you as well might be doing training on TikTok. It's possible. Snapchat still hasn't had really a breakthrough on the commercial side. A little bit in America with sort of venues and sports teams and some big brands, but it seems to be sort of one-off campaigns rather than anything too substantial or consistent. So I think actually I would say more likely next year that TikTok will make the business social media breakthrough as opposed to Snapchat.
Well, I had a little look on TikTok, and I also had a little look at Snapchat before, and I'm always looking for that. Is it useful for business? Would I recommend it to clients? Would the client be able to promote their business there? And on Snapchat, I found it completely unusable. So I came off it quite quickly, and actually my kids came off it quite quickly as well. So the platform is obviously lacking something. Whereas on TikTok, again, I set up my account there, posted a couple of videos, had a little look around, and yes, I can see it happening, and I can see how it can be useful for business. With a demographic, I would say, yes, it always starts young. It's the same like Instagram started young, and that's another point on my list. Because Instagram is great now, and Instagram now, we have to change our opinion as a business about Instagram from, oh, it's just for visuals, it's all for images and videos. We have to change from this into it's just another social media for communication with our clients, with our suppliers. And if we have content for any other social media, then we have content for Instagram as well. So the demographic on Instagram, last time I checked, was something like 35 plus. But I bet if we checked it 5 years ago, we would probably be like 25 plus. So
Younger, yeah,
it's
yeah.
aging because I'm on it now. Plus, lots of my friends are on it now, so we're making the demographic going a little bit higher. And I think the same is going to happen with TikTok. So at the moment, you're right, you might have 20 plus there, but in
Yeah,
the
that's a
other
fair
years,
point. Yeah,
it's going to grow with the people. The same, like, you know, Facebook was for 20 years old who are now
that's
30,
true.
who are now
Well,
50 years old. Yeah.
students initially, wasn't it? So yeah, if it
Yeah,
follows the
exactly.
same pattern, that does make sense. Yeah,
And they are now what, 40 something, 50 something, you know, they going, you know, and now younger kids don't go on Facebook and Twitter. They go on Instagram, they go on TikTok, but the platform will age with the demographics. So I wouldn't discard this for young people. Someone has to play with it before we start having a good look around. But the nice thing about TikTok and Instagram is they similar in build to Twitter, and everybody knows Twitter. We have followers and we're following, and if we follow, we're getting notification, and you
yeah.
know,
It's a nice straightforward concept.
yeah,
Yeah,
nice
yeah.
straightforward concept. So yes, the TikTok, we need to keep an eye on TikTok. It's not gonna go away. I think it's only going to grow in strength. And the interesting thing is that I think this is the massive thing. We didn't have a new platform for a very long time.
It's
And,
true. Yeah,
and we need
yeah.
something. So there was something called, can't remember, VENO, something like this. And I
Oh, there was Vine, which was
oh
owned by Twitter. That was video based. That was similar to
no, there
TikTok in
was
a way.
something else. But then, again, that disappeared before even surfaced. So
Yeah,
I think the market is ready for another platform. So it's interesting to see what TikTok is doing and how it's surfacing and how it's actually, there might be something there. I mean,
yep,
it's already there, but for business, I'm thinking for business,
yeah,
for
yeah, yeah,
promoting. Well, what else haven't we got? Messenger.
yeah,
It's a customer service front for all businesses now. Customer is contacting business through
yep.
social media, and this isn't going to change. It's going to be more and more of that. So
Yeah, I
I
agree.
see it all the time. So I think in 2020 we're going to have even more engagement through social media channels. No one is picking up the phone now. We're picking up a messenger, whichever one we have at
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point because that ties in with the back to basics argument, I think, with the sort of one-to-one conversation. But also, technically, of course, it's probably going to be next year that WhatsApp, Instagram, direct messages, and Messenger, there's going to be some sort of mashup, which Facebook have announced some time ago now. But there's. Sorry?
That makes me scared. What, are they going to break something?
Well, we don't. Yeah, we don't know exactly how it's gonna work, but it's probably gonna be the gist is that, say you've got WhatsApp but you haven't got Messenger, you'll be able to send a WhatsApp message to somebody on Messenger. So they'll be kind of like interoperable, if that's the right the right word. So it shouldn't make too much difference to the interface. It'll just mean, I think it'll be around the contacts, so that how your contacts are in WhatsApp at the moment from your phone, there'll be some sort of additional thing that they're picked up from Facebook as well, and vice versa. So, and Instagram. So I think that's probably how it's gonna work. So yeah, if they're all going to be more accessible and they work across platforms, then that's great for businesses using it for customer services, because it's going to be even easier for customers to get in touch with businesses. Vice versa is interesting because there hasn't really been much around that because of GDPR and the sort of actual how the platforms are set up. But there is WhatsApp Business, which is quite an interesting app that I use, and I think other businesses are beginning to, small businesses are beginning to use that as well. So we shall see what happens that way around. But definitely in terms of customers contacting brands, yeah, you're right. It's going to be more forget the phone and jump on
Forget an
social media
email.
for your queries. Yeah, and forget email as well. Yeah.
No, even forget a texting as well. We just go on.
Yeah.
It is this instant messaging is so much more intuitive and so much nicer and easier and straightforward. It's literally,
Yeah.
as I said before, we are lazy, so we don't want to waste any time, and we want to do it the quickest possible way and get an answer here and now, the second. So
Yeah.
this
Well,
is
you and me, Yola, we're not lazy. We just like to be very efficient.
yes, of course, we are very efficient. Yes. Well, what about influencers marketing? Any
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, thoughts on that would be, I think people are, whilst there's still going to be a huge market for the very big brand influencers, I
Mm-hmm.
think there's a, like, like your Kim Kardashians who's sort of raking in millions and millions. I think that'll continue, but I think the middle segment could sort of struggle a bit. So like your what do they call them, reality TV celebs, those kind of people, I think the bottom might drop out of that market, because I think people are beginning to lose faith with them a little bit and can see it's all a bit of a, in some cases at least, a bit of a scam, as in they're not really sort of like using the products and it's not very authentic. But I think they'll continue to trust the larger ones, and so that leaves the ones, the so-called micro influencers. So I think that's
That's
probably where
right.
the growth's going to be, because of the trust and authenticity there. So I think they could, could even sort of see scenarios where if they've got a very good Instagram account and a strong, dedicated, engaged following, it's like you're saying before, the follower numbers aren't really going to matter. So I could see somebody with sort of 2,000 to 5,000 followers on Instagram actually picking up some reasonable cash for working with brands.
Absolutely.
So we'll see what happens there. What do you think?
Yeah, I think exactly the same. I think that the millions followers, global influencers, yes, some of them will survive, some of them will be still utilized by big brands, but I think the turn is into the micro influencers with a lower number of followers, and but with a higher engagement.
Yeah,
And I think this is how I think it's with that trend that we started with. It's just going away from the craziness of numbers into the authenticity and reality and
yeah,
organic and slow down and patience. We were so impatient with social media. We need to be patient. It's just it's not a miracle. Is real life. Is real people. Things are not happening there with a magic that fairy dust. It's just
yeah,
we need
yeah.
to be realistic about it.
I think I'd also like should add that, because if we're both right and the micro influencer thing comes in, then there's got to be a bit of a mind shift from small businesses there, because I think at the moment they're thinking they can't afford an influencer on Instagram, but
That's
it's
right.
definitely going to be another avenue for marketing that they should look at,
Mhm.
because it might not be as expensive as they think. And also, if you look at case studies, data, and results from micro influencers, they're really quite impressive in terms of revenue generated, and money spent. So yeah, it's definitely one I think that small businesses should bear in mind. Not go for the obvious Facebook ads, Instagram ads, Google ads.
Yes.
Maybe
Yeah.
think about an Instagram influencer.
Absolutely. Is another avenue. So yeah, it's just different. I definitely feel things are changing in 2020. Things were carry on for the year two, 3, 5 last year, sort of just following the same trend. But something is changing this year from 2019 to 2020. Something is changing. There's a breath of fresh air, and very needed as well.
Yeah,
LinkedIn is becoming, basically, I heard somewhere that LinkedIn, and I feel it the same way, LinkedIn is becoming a new Facebook. We chat on LinkedIn in the same way like we used to talk on Facebook, and I engage in those conversations, and I enjoy it. And it's not
Yep.
just business; it is a business-related things like everyday life. Like
Yeah.
what we do weekends, where we travel. It gives you take time off your daily working away from your office, and you go and travel, and that's part of your life, and your business life balance, and mental health comes to it as well. So it's incredible what's happening on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is growing in strength, and people lost that sort of body armor, if you like, on LinkedIn. It's no longer that sort of horrible corporate environment. It's actually friendly business networking with real engagement, real contacts, with real conversation.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Probably a good time to start talking about the individual platforms then. I see. I agree. I think LinkedIn is sort of like onwards and upwards. It's going to rely on its USP, which is the fact that it is the only one that's focused on business, and I think it's going to perhaps become more of a sort of like work hub, workstation, because you've got the Microsoft connection with Microsoft owning it. I think I've been saying this for some time, but maybe next year will be when they integrate Skype and maybe even Word and PowerPoint and tools like that, some of the Office 365 tools. So, it'd be quite cool, wouldn't it, just to be able to go onto LinkedIn, fire up a Word document, and then send it to somebody, rather than having to open separate apps and stuff. So, or even PowerPoint, fire up a PowerPoint and then demo it to somebody on the screen using Skype or Skype technology. So that perhaps that will finally come in. Any thoughts on Instagram, where that might be headed, both sort of feature wise and trends wise?
Or would it be too brave to say that that Instagram is almost becoming a new Twitter, but it gets this engagement going wider into the business industry, but in a wide business. I mean, we're not only talking about creatives and businesses that are predominantly visual. Everybody should go on Instagram for, if nothing else, then for reaching out this other type of demographic. So if we say that we've got 35 plus people on Instagram, and if you need to reach them and you want to reach them because they are your potential clients, then your business needs to have presence on Instagram. And Instagram is brilliantly easy, lovely to use.
So widening up, you think, almost away from sort of like the obvious visual products, kind of like businesses. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've entered cybersecurity on it. I've entered
Okay, that's interesting.
on it. I've entered accountancy on it. Every business has right and reason to be on Instagram. You get different type of engagement with a different type of person. So what I've been saying for years is that as a business, we can't choose one platform. We need to be on the 4 main ones. But the customer can choose how they come to us. So whichever way customer prefer to communicate with the business, whether this is Twitter, whether this is Instagram, whether this is Facebook or LinkedIn, well, we need to be there so they can find us easily. So that for that reason, business has to be on Instagram. Instagram is the place for every business presence. And as I said before, if you have content for other platforms, then you have content for Instagram as well by default. Because we on our other platforms, we still have 4 components of every post. We have the text, the hashtag, the link, and we have a visual element of it. So
you can use the visual element over on Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. You put the same on Instagram. It's just that the story again. the idea of Instagram that is visual and is like guarded and we shouldn't be there. We need to come away from it, and a lot of businesses are coming away from it and starting to believe that this is a normal engagement social media platform. It's just the brand was set that way that we were led to believe that we have to be highly visual to be on Instagram, and that's not
Yeah.
true anymore.
Yeah, maybe, I think you're probably hinting at the fact that maybe we'll see more. I've noticed some people really going to town in I mean, they still call it a caption, don't they? But some people are, rather than sort of using it as a caption, they're telling like a massive story in there. So perhaps we're going to see more of that. What about Twitter? Any thoughts on Twitter?
Well, Twitter is Twitter. Twitter is almost like a granddad of social media, and I think it's going to stay that way. I think if we're looking for content on Twitter, then I personally go and search for certain profile, and then I look at what people are saying there. I certainly don't rely on my timeline because it's impossible to capture anything. So I capture content through lists and through going to certain profiles. The timeline is absolutely impossible to get hold of any content on Twitter.
Yeah. Did you say there's a couple of list improvements out today or yesterday, actually?
No, I haven't been on Twitter today yet. But
so the first one, let me get this right, is that when you share a link to a list, it's not just a boring link anymore. It comes up with an image. I'm not sure where that image comes from. I haven't actually tried it yet, but Twitter just announced it via a tweet yesterday. So almost like a Twitter card. And the other one is that only on iOS, but when you add somebody to a list or you start creating a new one, it suggests other potential people to add, which is quite interesting.
Okay.
So a couple of improvements there. So I'm guessing when it comes to Facebook, you'd rather me give the predictions on Facebook.
Well, as I said, I would say I can see Facebook working really well as a sort of equivalent of a website, and I can see how valuable the template is and how much it allows you to put in there, and you really can showcase your business through the template. So and many businesses are not utilizing full potential of this platform. You can add documents, you can add all sorts of things there. So from this point of view, I really see value in Facebook. Everything else, the engagement, as I said, yes, I'm upset. Let's just say I'm upset with Facebook for doing what they did to us in 2017. I really don't like it. It really hurt me personally.
A few from me on Facebook then, because they've announced that this Facebook Pay is coming in, so we'll probably see that in the UK. So I think that's going to work like a bit like Samsung Pay or Google Pay. So you basically have money in your Facebook account and then be able to do stuff with that money. So buy games, buy ads, and that sort of thing. I think they'll probably improve shopping. So whilst you've got a Facebook shop at the moment, you can't actually buy stuff directly on Facebook with sort of specific technology like you can on Instagram. Whilst it's not totally integrated to Instagram, I think it will be. But definitely more improvements, I think, shopping over on Facebook. And news is going to be another area, I think. So maybe not affecting businesses so much unless you're a publisher, but good for receiving information nevertheless, and local news, because they've sort of started to develop local news in the States. So I think that's probably going to be coming over to the UK.
One thing that I've sorry.
Yeah, go on. No, go on. Yeah.
No, I thought you're done with Facebook. I don't want to hear that. I'm joking. No, the one thing about Instagram that we have to be very aware of is the stories, and stories the same on as a way of communication on Facebook as well. Stories are massive. They only are getting more and more into power, and is that reminding your customers that you exist through just being visible there and popping out in their not so much in the timeline but on the top of the profile. It's a powerful tool, and the quicker businesses again unlock the potential and change the way they view stories, not as being something silly, but being something that actually is helping the business presence and visibility, the better for businesses.
Yep, no, definitely. So probably a good time to see if anybody's got any questions for us. So do feel free to ask us any questions at all. Just post in the comments whether you're watching live or watching on the replay, and we will reply. And we'd love to hear your own predictions as well. So what are your social media predictions for 2020? Do let us know. Anything else on that list of yours, Yola?
Well, the videos are getting obviously massive reach, and the video content is still the king, and is important to do videos and post videos. However, it sounds like the videos are getting shorter and shorter. We don't want to watch long videos, and so they getting shorter than a minute now. So you need to be quick and into the point.
Yeah, got to make an impact straight away. That's absolutely true. First few seconds. I think that's probably come about with just people's general attention spans getting shorter all the time, and then you've got the likes of TikTok and the short videos over there. So that's what people are expecting now. Live video. Any thoughts on live video?
No, any on you?
Yeah, well, I think I'm going to go against the general thought out there from social media people who sort of think that there's going to be an increase in live video. I think there certainly might be on the business and the personal side, but all these deals that Twitter and Facebook have done with sports teams covering sports events and stuff like that, I don't think that's really gonna work. I think Twitter has got something going on with the Olympics next year, Tokyo Olympics next year, not to cover the actual events, but more sort of behind the scenes type stuff. But I just don't really see that as being part of social media, and definitely not part of Twitter. Might be wrong, but we'll see what happens there. But I'd rather they sort of concentrate on what I think they do best. Concentrate on being social networks. There's plenty of people out there, like, so many on there: Sky, Amazon, Netflix, who can do all the live streaming and covering of sports events. All the major TV broadcasters. So why not just let them? Apple, why not let them get on with it? That's my view. But we'll see. I don't think I've got a little. Oh yes, I've got one more here. Have you got any more before I do my last one?
No. I was going to only say on the live videos that there must have been some kind of LinkedIn training going on in my business networking connections, because the increase of live videos was massive last few weeks, and I'm thinking someone's going around training everybody, telling them to go and do the live videos.
It's probably more that they've got the live video feature, which I'm still waiting for. So that's more. That's more likely it, I think. So my final one is I kind of predicted it before Facebook came out with the Portal device. I had a feeling they were going to get into hardware, and I think we're going to see more of that. So here's a very specific prediction. Next year, I think they'll be making stuff like headphones and microphones to tie in with their podcasting. So that's a bit of a off the wall one from me.
What about the Oculus one?
Yeah, that's another example of VR headset hardware. I don't think that's really. I think technically that has moved on, but I don't think there's really going to be a breakthrough there for about another 4 or 5 years until you can sort of get it down to a VR experience in sort of like the glasses that we're both sort of wearing. I don't think anybody really wants to put on I mean, yeah, obviously a lot of people are happy to put on an Oculus
but they are so heavy.
helmet. They're what, sorry?
They are very, very heavy.
Well, that's it. Yeah. I don't think it's going to go mainstream until that barrier is removed. So yeah, that's my thought on that.
It's kind of interesting to see where that goes and what it's going to do.
Oh yeah. I mean, the technology is pretty amazing. So it's just making it more accessible for people. So I think we're just about done now. But if anybody's got any predictions you would like to let us know about, then do post them in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Or if you've got any questions for Yola or I, that'd be really cool too. But I think that's pretty much it. So just remains for me to wish you all a very happy Christmas and a fantastic new year. Hope you enjoy all the celebrations, and the same to you too, Yola.
Thank you very much, and then the same to you. Happy Christmas, and all the best for next year.
All the best to you, and thank you for coming on to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure. Thank you.